Michael Popok, Legal AF. Want a surefire way to piss off Donald Trump and make his son, Eric Trump, bite his fingernails in the courtroom, and you're the attorney general? Call early in your case, maybe even as your first witness, Donald Bender. Donald Bender used to be, or is a partner at the accounting firm Mazars. Mazars was the accounting and auditing firm that for over a dozen years not only did the Trump Organization tax returns, he did all the tax returns for the baby Trumps, for Ivanka, for Eric, for Don Jr., for Donald Trump himself. He did the personal tax returns, and he did it for the CFO, Alan Weisselberg, the disgraced former CFO who went to jail for 6 months for tax evasion. And Donald Bender is a tried and trusted witness because he already testified successfully against Donald Trump and the Trump Organization and Alan Weisselberg in the last year Trump Organization ... tax evasion criminal trial tried in front of Judge Merchan by the Manhattan DA's office, where all those Trump entities, major ones, got convicted of 17 counts of tax fraud, and Alan Weisselberg did also, including for personal income tax fraud. Don Bender was a lead witness for that testified in that case as well. So they've been dreading that day over in Trump world that Don Bender would take the stand. They just didn't realize it was going to be on day one. I mean, I know his name starts with a B, and he was at the top of the chart, but it was an alphabetical listing by the New York Attorney General of Witnesses. Who knew they were going to start with Don Bender? And so they did. They did. And the lead lawyer that's representing the New York Attorney General, special counsel for the economic justice division of the Office of Attorney General. I love the sound of that. It's much better than witch hunt, election interference, and all of that. That's what the lead prosecutors do. They have been walking Don Bender through his testimony. The other big issue that is very important to understand in this case and all cases about Donald Trump and his business practices is that Mazars fired the client. But they didn't just fire the client and walk away from representing Donald Trump, Alan Weisselberg, Don Jr., and Eric, who's biting his fingernails in the courtroom, as I said, literally, as reported by reporters, while his slideshow is going on. But they fired all the Trumps in a noisy way. They announced to the world as soon as Letitia James's New York Attorney General case started, right? Soon as her civil fraud case started and she started subpoenaing Mazars around the time that Don Bender was about to take the stand last year in the criminal tax evasion case against them, Mazars just wiped their hands and issued a public statement that nothing that they have submitted as audited financials to banks, lenders, and other stakeholders for Donald Trump and his organization can be relied upon. Don't rely on a thing that we said because we can't rely on the underlying data. Aha, there's the rub. The underlying data comes from where? The Trump Organization. Alan Weisselberg, Donald Trump's longtime chief financial officer, been around so long that he was Donald Trump's father's chief financial officer, Fred Trump, and others there. Mr. McConney, who was the controller for the Trump Organization, he also supplied information. Donald Trump himself supplied data and information to Don Bender. And they certified, all these people certified to Don Bender, because that's what you have to do as an auditor and accountant. You have to have people attest and swear that what they're providing you is everything complete and reliable. And they did. And they showed with Don Bender in trial testimony today, they showed the document signed by the Trump Organization that everything in this financial statement of conditions is true and accurate and complies with generally accepted accounting principles. Sign on the bottom line, Alan Weisselberg, Jeff McConney. And also Donald Trump signed a very similar, almost identical one about his statement of financial condition that I, Donald J. Trump, attest and certify everything in here complies with generally accepted accounting principles. And so they flashed that up on the board too. And they said, is that true, Mr. Bender, in the trial today? And Mr. Bender said, no. I mean, it took him a couple of questions and answers to come out and say that. They walked him through all the returns and information and audited financials that he did as the lead partner for Mazars, whose biggest client Mr. Bender's biggest client was Donald Trump, the Trump Organization, and all the little Trumpers. That the Office of Inspector General Attorney walked him through all returns, all audited financials, 2012 to 2016. So Kevin Wallace, the lawyer for Letitia James, the special counsel for the Economic Justice Division, walks him through it. Now, in the beginning, before a break, because of some rulings by the appellate court that sits above Judge Engoron, who's presiding, like they're his bosses, they said certain of the transactions are outside the statute of limitations. And that's why they cut Ivanka Trump free. I have another hot take about why Ivanka may testify, but she's not a defendant in the case. When running a business, your employees can create all kinds of interesting situations. Like somebody isn't showing up when they're supposed to. Talk to Bambee. An employee reports a serious issue like sexual harassment, and you're not sure if you have a documented policy. Talk to Bambee. With Bambee, get access to your own dedicated HR manager, starting at just $99 per month. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat. So onboarding and terminations, they run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambee's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. Bambee's dedicated HR managers are US-based people dedicated to your business, giving you access to the HR expertise and personal touch you need. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambee starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambee can take off your plate. Go to Bambee.com right now and type in Legal AF under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled Bambee.com, Bambee.com, and type in Legal AF. But just because certain transactions might be outside the statute of limitations, as Judge Engoron reminded the defense lawyers today, doesn't mean that the continued use of these financial statements, these corrupt, fraudulent financial statements, and statements of financial condition, which are also fraudulent, if they continue to be used persistently and consistently, then they can be part of the case. And that seems to be something that is lost on the defense team and on Donald Trump, who's very upset and pounding on the table, especially when Don Bender testifies against him. And so Don Bender also said that while the Trump Organization, Donald Trump and others had an obligation not to mislead their auditor and their accountant, right, to give him accurate and full and complete information upon request and otherwise, he said that's not true, that they frequently did not give him, in retrospect, 2020 hindsight, they frequently misled him and didn't give him the full financial data and information that he was requesting over a number of years. He also testified that, as we've heard before from the New York Times reporting, that Donald Trump was in an alleged loss position of billions of dollars for a lot of his tax return years. The New York Times looked at 18 years of tax returns that they got, I think, ultimately from the Mary Trump case, and determined that in 11 out of the 18 years, Donald Trump was in a loss position and owed no federal income tax. One year, he only owed $730 in income tax. This from the guy who stands on the courthouse steps and inside the courthouse during breaks, and as he walks in and says, I have a beautiful company. It's worth billions of dollars and billions and billions. Really? Billions of dollars where you've lost, maybe you meant you lost billions of dollars, because that's what your tax returns look like. And that's what they've walked through Don Bender on the stand in front of not a jury, because we have a judge here. A judge is presiding in a bench trial. And so as promised, Kevin Wallace for the Office of Inspector General tied it all together. The lying that began in 2012 continued continuously, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and the like, as we get in beyond the statute of limitations problem for the case. And so this is why Donald Trump today, with furrowed brow and unhappy face and thumbs down and chewing off the ear. I mean, and Chris Kice's lawyer is going to have like a cauliflower ear by the time he's done listening to Donald Trump banging on the table and folding up pieces of paper, and Alina Habba, who's sitting at the kiddie table. I'm not even sure that computer screen that they have in front of her will show a picture. I'm not even sure that screen works. That just might be a baby's computer monitor by Fisher Price. I really don't know. I know she's sitting in the courtroom. I know when they need an attack dog, they push a button somewhere on her back and she jumps up and says things against the judge and mimics and parrots whatever Donald Trump says. But, it's a high paying ventriloquist act that we're watching with Alina Habba. Chris Geis is no better, by the way. I'm equally bashing both of the attorneys related to them and the things that they say aloud in the courtroom. Don Bender, bad day for Donald Trump. He'll be cross-examined later today. But in day 2, day 1 was all about the openings and the stomping of feet and ridiculous attacks on prosecutors and on the judge by Donald Trump that continued all the way through the day at lunch breaks and at breaks. Day 2 should be remembered for the testimony of Don Bender, partner Mazars, who threw Donald Trump and the others, including Eric, under the bus and said that they basically lied to their auditors and their accountants in order to mislead them, leading to financial statements that ultimately could not be relied upon and were fraudulent to the marketplace. That is, again, the heart of the case as the New York Attorney General's office continues to chip away and to prove to the presiding judge that there was intent to defraud, a necessary element in this case, in the remaining 6 counts that are now being tried, the judge having already determined that the standalone fraud claim had already been met and made and granted judgment in favor of the New York Attorney General. Now we're just on to fraudulent insurance fraudulent insurance forms and statements, fraudulent personal financial statements, fraudulent business records, and the conspiracies around them, all of which require intent, not the level of criminal intent, but intent to be proven by the preponderance of evidence. I'll continue to follow all things related to Don Bender and every other witness over the next 3 to 4 months that the New York Attorney General calls up and the cross-examination that results. One place on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Free subscribe, help them get to 2 million. The bigger they get, the more your voice is heard. You like what I'm doing on Hot Takes? I do them about every day, sometimes every hour, right here on the MeidasTouch Network. On Wednesdays and Saturdays, catch me, along with my co-anchors, on the MeidasTouch Legal AF. It's what you think. It's 5 or 6 of these stories from the week that we curate and talk about with our collective 75 years of experience as the leaders of Legal AF. Give me a thumbs up here. Helps with the ratings. Until my next hot take. Until my next Legal AF. This is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.